But today we have the dope dad coming up first. That's right. It's Rico Lamitte. Rico Lamitte had to stay at home this weekend and pack his things up and pack some boxes. Normally if you're in cannabis, packing boxes means something different. But for today, for Rico Lamitte, packing boxes has a whole new slang. That's right. It's the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Thank you, Jason. And boxes were packed, lots of them. And I hope I never have to move again. But thank you regardless. It's scribble day every single day for me. So just is what it is. Got to wash down these walls. My story today is about a looming threat we've seen for years now. Big tobacco. I mean, think about big tobacco. You can't think about anybody in America bigger than Altria. Altria is the LeBron James of capitalism. After nearly 200 years in the game, the corporation formerly known as Philip Morris is still ranked 79th globally by market cap. Since 1847, pumping out nothing but bangers. Altria's played an integral part in developing some of the biggest brands we know in America. It's Hall of Fame worthy, greatest hits portfolio. It's got names like Marlboro, Parliament, Virginia Slims, emphysema, lung cancer. Picking up young, lesser known talent early has been key to Altria's success. This is why it should be no surprise to anybody that the big underdeveloped prospect Altria's got its eyes on next is cannabis. In 2020, cigarette sales spiked for the first time in 20 years thanks to... Sorry, my computer's all fucked up now. Can't even see nothing. You guys hear me?
We hear you just fine. Keep on rolling.
I'm going dark. All right, so this is why it's no surprise. It should be no surprise to know anyone that the big underdeveloped prospect Altria's got eyes for next is cannabis. In 2020, cigarette sales spiked for the first time in 20 years thanks to the pandemic, bringing in $203.7 billion, slight increase from $202.9 billion 2019. But the win was short-lived. FTC reported this January sales dropped in 2022 to $190.2 billion, down 73% since 1981 peak of $636.5 billion. That's $2.1 trillion today in Joe Biden's hyperinflated America. But when you're good at capitalism for so long, you learn to listen to the market and shift accordingly. Less people smoking, so the natural shift is vapes, right? They did that. They bought Juul in 2018 for $13 billion. Didn't end up so well for them, though. It's worth about 5% of what they bought it for now. All good. They're going to get it back. What's the next trend? Wokeness? Jason Beck? Kind of. Altria is saying that the focus going forward is healthier products, relatively speaking. CEO Billy Gifford said Altria learned a lot losing almost $13 billion on Juul. This is what he said to the Wall Street Journal last week. Previously, we were chasing the market. You're constantly watching what the consumer is telling you in the marketplace, but none of them were satisfying the consumer enough to ultimately meet all their needs and desires. How do you meet them in that moment and fix their unmet needs and desires? It's coming from big tobacco. Well, apparently there ain't gonna be much smoke in whatever room said unmet needs and desires are getting fixed. Because for the first time in company history, Altria set volume and revenue goals for a transition to smoke-free products, aiming to increase smoke-free sales volume at least 35% through 2028 and double net revenue from smoke-free products to $5 billion, including $2 billion from new reduced risk products. According to the Wall Street Journal, that includes smokeless caffeine pouches and cannabis products. There you have it, folks. According to Altria's CEO, 5 years from now, folks are going to be walking around with lips full of Altria ground coffee beans and puffing on Marlboro Boof green live rosin disposable vapes. Altria's American capitalism story reminds me of one of my favorite movie quotes from Robert Duvall playing Officer Bob Hodges in Colors. Here's two bulls standing at the top of a mountain. The younger one says to the older one, "Hey, Pop, let's say we run down there and fuck one of them cows." The older one says, "No, son, let's walk down and fuck them all." The slow walk downhill began back in 2019 with the Kronos Group being first to bend over. If they put half that $2 billion planned into cannabis, it'll be about half Curaleaf's entire market cap as currently the world's biggest cannabis company. Also, LeBron James' net worth. Very interesting. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street for High 9 News, and I'd like to hear about you guys, from you guys. Are you ready for the big tobacco takeover? Because it looks like they're going to start doing.